Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:07 on this Thursday, 30th day of October. It's Halloween Eve. It's also, as Cassie Smedile likes to call it, Friday Junior. Is that the?
Yes.
I like Friday Junior. It could, you know what? This Thursday has a Friday vibe to it because tomorrow's sort of a pretend holiday. So let's go for it.
Yeah, I'm with it. And plus, all the kids are out of school hours early yet again.
Just don't call it Friday Junior, or you'll get slapped with a copyright lawsuit from Patrice Onwuka. That's how she operates.
Got it.
It'll get ugly. Coming up at 6:35, Junaid Khan, who's running for the House of Delegates, and boy, we need Republicans down there as we witness the bleep show going on right now. At 7:35, Republican National Committee Chairman Joe Gruters will tell us what that RNC is doing for Get Out the Vote in these final days. Oh, that's good that we have Cassie Smedile here, a veteran of the RNC of years gone by.
Yes, I remember when the chairman was doing the Lord's work in Florida.
Yes.
So we left that in good spot.
8:05, KT McFarland on Trump's visit to Asia. And then at 8:35, your Attorney General for the Commonwealth of Virginia, Jason Miyares, will make his final case for your vote. That's all coming up. That's Cassie Smedile, as I've mentioned a few times now. And I'm Larry O'Connor. Yesterday, Chuck Grassley and Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee held a press conference, a very detailed press conference. It was lengthy and it was thorough, and it laid out what the chairman has learned up to this point on the investigation conducted under Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, and, of course, at President Biden's bidding, known as Arctic Frost. Now, a lot of you have already heard a lot of the details here that we're going to share with you and that were presented at the press conference yesterday. They've been released via press release, a document dump, interview, et cetera, with various media entities. And so we've shared what we've learned as we go. But I got to commend the chairman, Chuck Grassley, for putting together this press conference to consolidate it all into one package. At least, again, this is just what we know so far. And to hear some of the things, some of the revelations discussed and presented and elaborated on from these senators personally. You know, I kind of criticize them. Well, you know, one of the big revelations was that Jack Smith, the special prosecutor who was part of the architect of this Biden enemies list, turned into a full-blown multi tens of millions of dollars investigation encompassing not just a couple of players who may have been nefariously working with January 6th hooligans and maybe advising President Trump to, you know, stay in office beyond the election or what have you, whatever the allegations are. No. This included hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of conservative organizations, think tanks, advocacy groups, media entities, reporters. It goes on and on and on. And I gave them some heat when the revelation that a handful of Republican senators' cell phones had been monitored and their telephone activity had been subpoenaed by Jack Smith, that they threw together what looked like a hostage video press conference in maybe a hotel conference room or something. It looked amateurish. And I was like, guys, what are you doing? This is a huge story. Treat it like that. That's what they did yesterday. And it was thorough and it was all-encompassing. And, well, I mean, it's been said before, but I'll say it again. This makes Watergate look like a tea party, Cassie. It is unbelievable. Forget I said unbelievable. It is astonishing, but 100% believable, considering Joe Biden and considering the kind of political career he had as a vindictive, angry, bitter, horrible human being in the Senate. His reputation preceded him. That he would. It is astonishing how widespread this was and how dangerous and how dangerously close it was to succeeding. And I think we're only scraping the surface so far on this. Go ahead and jump out. I've got details. I want to lay it out for you, but I know you saw a lot of this coverage as well yesterday. It's mind-blowing. I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was this bad.
And to the extent that they, I would say pressured, but they subpoenaed, you noted this, Verizon to wiretap Ted Cruz's office phone.
Yeah, not just the cell phone activity, his office phone at the Senate.
I mean, the lengths that they were going to. Remember when the adults were supposed to be back in charge? And this is what they were doing. And this was all tied into going after their, quote, political enemies. And oh, by the way, what is that something democracy dies in darkness? Where was the curiosity from the press? Even when they had the initial revelation of the 6 or 8 members of Congress, why wasn't that a bigger story? And the press would love to say, and they have been saying, I should say the legacy media, that well, this was the last administration. Why are you wasting your time on this? You should be focused on what the administration's doing with ICE and immigration. No, this is important because if this is happening to elected officials, what's to say that it can't happen to you? If they are compelling Verizon and other private businesses to go in and tap phone lines for their own political whims.
For a Republican senator.
A senator, yeah.
A senator. I mean, this is
what
you talk about a constitutional crisis. You talk about, all the rhetoric that we hear about Trump and weaponizing the Justice Department, and he's an authoritarian. Trump would never dream of doing things like this. Here's what we learned yesterday. Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, Jack Smith, and Christopher Wray. These are names that our audience know full well. They were the architects of this. The target was Donald Trump. This is in the intervening months after January 6th. The whole purpose of this in 21, 22, 23 was to prevent Donald Trump from running for president again. This was a political attack on Donald Trump. Also, by the way, it was called Arctic frost deliberately. Why? Because that refers to Florida. They were targeting him in Florida, Mar-a-Lago. That's why the FBI raid on those files happened. That was a political operation. We know that because they brought all of those classified folders that said top secret. They brought them with them, put them down on the floor over documents that had been in a box in a locked private office of President Trump, made it look like they were just strewn across the floor, took that picture, and it was front page news everywhere. Then there were leaks that he was selling documents to the Saudis about nuclear secrets that we haven't. All of it was fake. All of it was phony, and all of it was orchestrated. They went after over 9 members of Congress, 92 Republican organizations and individuals. That includes people who worked for Charlie Kirk at Turning Point USA. It involves, as we mentioned yesterday, Ed Carmichael Ed. God, I'm sorry, I've got so many names in my head right now. Sorry, Corrigan. Thank you, Ed Corrigan, who ran the conservative, the CPI. 197 different subpoenas for 430 Republican entities or individuals. And as we mentioned, Ted Cruz was targeted. We're going to give you some of the audio that happened at this press conference yesterday. And by the way, these Republicans, if I can use this word real fast, they looked pissed. They looked so angry. They looked so angry, furious about this. And I hope they are, and I hope they're doing something about it, because people getting fired is not enough at this point. Not with this kind of abuse. Nixon would never even dream of doing the kind of maniacal, authoritarian, Cold War kind of attack on our own elected officials. I'm sometimes rendered speechless by this. You'll hear from Chuck Grassley and Ted Cruz and more in just a moment.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
I've recently been informed by Verizon that at least 11 members with Verizon accounts were affected. That includes a hard line for Senator Cruz's office and a staffer's cell phone for former Senator Loeffler. AT&T informed me they challenged the legal basis for Jack Smith's efforts, and Smith backed down.
All right. That's Chuck Grassley yesterday, and laying out exactly how extensive the wiretapping operation was. Arctic frost, if I thought I'd mentioned this, it's an orange. It's a certain kind of orange that can make it through the frost in parts of Florida. It's an insult to Trump. Orange man. Get it? Orange. Yeah. But also it had to do with the Florida operation as well, encompassing parts of this, which is, I think, ironic because now there's going to be a grand jury impaneled down in Florida to look at this grand conspiracy, and that's where the jury will be held, and that's where the trial will be held in Florida, not in D.C., in Florida, where we actually will see some justice happen. Ted Cruz yesterday, who knows a thing or two about the Constitution, I want you to hear what he had to say, but before I do, I just want to point out again, this was an investigation in search of a crime. Nowhere in here, everybody been saying, well, this is what prosecutors do. This is what the FBI does. Where's the crime? What was the crime? They wanted to know who was talking to who and what they were saying, and it all had to do with an election. And by the way, it had to do with preventing Trump from being eligible to run for office again. You heard that all the time from Biden. You heard that all the time from Democrats. That was the purpose. That's why when they finally got some corrupt DAs to indict him and prosecute him, that's the only talking point they had during the election was, oh, he's been convicted of 37 felonies. That's all they had. That's why they did this. Let's go to Ted Cruz, a duly elected member of the United States Senate by the people of Texas who was a target of surveillance by Jack Smith and the FBI in the most corrupt criminal enterprise the federal government has ever engaged in. Cut 6.
Merrick Garland was a fundamentally corrupt attorney general. Jack Smith was a fundamentally corrupt prosecutor. This was a political enemies list from the beginning. 197 subpoenas for 430 Republican entities and individuals. That is an absolute and egregious abuse of power. The Biden Justice Department signed off on issuing subpoenas for the phone records of at least 9 U.S. senators. 20% of the Republicans in the United States Senate were the target of this fishing expedition. They did so in complete contravention of the Constitution, of separation of powers, of the speech and debate clause, of free speech, of basic rights of privacy. This is an executive who believes it is justified spying on their opponents in the legislature because they convince themselves the ends justify the means.
Well said, Ted Cruz. As usual, he then honed in on these subpoenas of phone records, and you heard it a little bit there from Chuck Grassley, but Cruz sort of elaborates on the fact that phone companies respected the Constitution more than Jack Smith, Merrick Garland, and Joe Biden. Take a listen.
One of those subpoenas went from Jack Smith to AT&T, seeking my cell phone communications. It went to AT&T, and I actually want to commend AT&T for doing the right thing. AT&T is based in Texas. AT&T looked at that subpoena, and they went to their legal counsel. And they said, what should we do with that subpoena? And their legal counsel said, you cannot comply because this is protected by the speech and debate clause of the U.S. Constitution. And so AT&T declined to comply, did not hand over my cell phone records. Now, one might ask, ordinarily, a phone company being asked to hand over the phone records of a sitting senator would notify that senator. Well, there was a reason AT&T did not do so. Accompanying the subpoena was an order, which I have in my hand right here.
We've got a little bit more, but I do want to chew in here, Cassie. At this point, they talk about how ICE is Trump's secret police, which is not very secret because they're right out in the open and they're doing their jobs and enforcing federal law. This is Joe Biden and the Democrat apparatus in this town, the deep state. This was their secret police, in my opinion, operating in secret, in subterfuge, never thinking that they would be caught because they were going to retain power this whole time. Doing fundamentally unconstitutional actions that, again, even the phone company pushed back on and said, no, that we're not going to do that. Joe Biden either knew full well what was going on and commanded and ordered all of this as the most corrupt president in American history, or he was so out of it that there were puppet masters pulling these strings. And either way, Joe Biden is a blight on presidential history, in my opinion.
Right. Which one is worse? And this, I'm not to trivialize this, but to put this in terms, you know how when you're a parent of young kids and all of a sudden it gets really quiet in the next room, that's usually when the most destruction is happening.
Yeah, I'm very aware of
and
that.
You go around and you're like, what the H just happened in here?
Yeah.
This is how I feel. They would say nothing to see here. The press covered for Joe Biden being absent. They told us. So to your point, either he was willing this to happen or was allowing the puppet masters around him to do it, or they were just doing it. But even Merrick Garland, they would try, oh, he's just this nice old guy. He's harmless.
Right.
The adults are in charge. They kind of made this big production over being this harmless administration. Oh, we're just here keeping the lights on. And in fact, they were causing all of this destruction because they couldn't beat us on the policies. They knew they couldn't beat Donald Trump at the ballot, so they had to bankrupt him and or imprison him.
Right.
And they had to make everybody doubt him. We were all conspiracy theorists, right?
Mm-hmm. You're right.
And this, meanwhile, this was happening. Everybody knew it, but we couldn't put our finger on it, and then they have done it now.
And it wasn't enough just to go after Trump. Any Republican, that they all had to be either publicly shamed or they needed to be prosecuted if they supported Donald Trump. Those were the terms that were laid out here, and that's what Arctic Frost is all about. It's not just enough that you beat them in an election. No. If you supported Trump, you need to be ostracized from the political body and cut out like you're a malignant tumor. That was their viewpoint. And you know how I know that? Because I've watched them on cable news. I've watched them on the broadcast news. I've listened to their speeches. That's what I saw. Joe Biden's speech in front of Independence Hall that was bathed in blood red light as he said that MAGA Republicans were a direct threat to the Constitution. If you believe that garbage, this is the kind of thing that you do. You use every means necessary that you have at your disposal, and you try to cut that malignant tumor out of the body politic. And that's what they tried to do to the Republican Party, not just to Trump, but to all of these members. As Ted Cruz just said, 20% of the Republican caucus in the Senate was under investigation and under wiretap surveillance from Jack Smith, Merrick Garland, and Joe Biden. It is an outrage.
And that they were trying to do it to the broader American people. Remember,
Yes.
you wear a red hat. You're
That's right.
racist.
That's
You're
right.
a Nazi.
It always comes back to the voters. It always comes back to us.
Everyone.
And the fact that Christopher Wray allowed this to happen and that the FBI, I've reached the point where I don't see how the FBI survives what we're learning about the FBI. I really don't. I trust and respect Kash Patel, and I know that he's doing what he can. But I wonder if whatever vestiges are left after he's done cleaning house, if he's going to be cleaning house. There's still people who coordinated this at various field offices who are still there and still in charge. I feel like the FBI has just grown so massive and so unwieldy that there is no salvaging it. Let's see what the solution is, because it's not enough to have a press conference and just get this stuff out there. It just isn't. We'll continue to follow this story, as you know, because sadly, I think there's a whole lot more to learn. It's 6:25. It is 6:30. Coming up, we're going to speak with Junaid Khan, running for the House of Delegates, District 27, Loudoun County. Keep it here.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good Thursday morning at 6:37. It's O'Connor and Company, and we got a busy slate in front of us here, so let's get right to it. Larry O'Connor with Cassie Smedile. Good morning, Cassie.
Good morning, Larry.
It's 7:35. The chairman of the RNC, Joe Gruters. 8:05, K.T. McFarland on Trump's Asian trip, and then at 8:35, the Attorney General of Virginia, Jason Miyares. Like I said, we got a lot going on. And let's turn right now to the candidate for the Republicans to win the House of Delegates seat in District 27. It's Junaid Khan. Mr. Khan, thanks for joining us. Good morning. Mr. Khan? Oh, you may have put yourself. Oh, there we go. Yep, that happens sometimes. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Khan. Listen, right here in the home stretch of your campaign, you've been handed quite an issue here as the Democrats have assembled down in Richmond for this last-minute, last-second political stunt to redistrict the Commonwealth of Virginia. What's your opinion about that, and is this motivating voters here in the last days?
First of all, thank you so much for bringing me on to your show. Yes, absolutely. Last week we met our lieutenant governor. She was to attend an event together in Loudoun County with other candidates.
Oh, shoot. Mr. Khan, we're having trouble with your phone, and I want to make sure voters can hear you. So, listen, we're going to try to reconnect with you because we want to make sure that the candidates are heard, and especially in this area. This is District 27. This is Loudoun County. This is an area in Northern Virginia where there's a whole lot of campaigning going on, Cassie Smedile, as you know. This is Purcellville, Round Hill, Hamilton. We want to make sure that the voters there can hear Mr. Khan and get ready for their casting their vote in an informed way against the Democrat candidate, Atusa Reeser. Are you? By the way, I know yard signs aren't the most important measure of how an election is going, but it is a bit of a, checking which way the wind is blowing. How's your neighborhood looking these days?
Yeah, well, I will tell you, it's our first time being in Virginia for election, so we proudly put out our yard signs for the Republicans, but so did the neighbors on either side of us. Mm-hmm. And our neighbor across the street said, well, I've never seen that before for the Republicans. So we have 3 houses in a row. And funny enough, my husband was like, are we going to take down the yard signs for trick or treat? I said, no, be bold. If we get TP'd, we will have earned it.
That's right. Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, no, it is funny when it's election time because you don't talk politics with your neighbors. Most normal people don't. And then suddenly it's like, oh, they are on my team. Okay, good. All right. We got Junaid Khan back once again. Sorry about that. I know there was some phone problems. So go ahead, Mr. Khan. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. What I was saying is our Lieutenant Vincent Sears, he was here, helped with the campaign and the voters. And we did discuss this, and it is just to stop the incumbents, the lieutenant governor and other candidates to just disrupt their campain. And this was wrong, and the way voters see, and then we went
Mr.
out.
Khan, I am sorry. I with all due respect, we just if you can't be heard and understood, we just can't do it. And it's not fair to the voters either, let alone just sort of how hard it is to listen on the radio. So we're going to have to reschedule here where you can get a hard line or a better connection. And if it is our phone system, I certainly deeply apologize. I don't think it is. I want to give as much information about Mr. Khan as possible, though. Again, he's running for the House of Delegates in Virginia, District 27. I already told you the cities this affects. Go to Junaid 4VA. Junaid is JUNAID, the number 4, VA, Junaid4VA.com is where you can get all the information about him as your candidate. He's a longtime Loudoun County resident, and he focuses quite a bit on parents' rights. And I don't know about you, Cassie, one of the things that we've been looking at out of Richmond is the fact that the Democrats seem bound and determined to keep parents out of the conversation about some of the critical issues facing our children in public schools. And Abigail Spanberger talks a good game, but the policies and her votes in the past betray her campaign rhetoric today. And all you have to do is look at how the people who are on her ticket and in her party in Richmond have voted in the past. They don't want parents notified if their children share sexual secrets about their identity or their behaviors with parents and administrators. They want teachers to be able to keep those secrets from parents, even when parents proactively call in and ask, hey, is there anything going on with my kid that I should know about? And they go to the extreme that if a parent does not affirm their child's predisposition, or I should say current disposition, about what gender to identify as, well, they want to be able to take that child out of that parent's home and label that child, the parents, as child abusers. That's where the Democrats are right now. Mr. Khan is opposed to those kinds of policies. That's enough to win my vote if I lived there.
Certainly. It's extreme, it's dangerous, and Loudoun County has become the epicenter of this debate, which it shouldn't be a debate. But for any parents or voters, just concerned voters, community members who are in Loudoun County, this is a real moment to make your voice heard loud and clear on this issue that is, for whatever reason, it's an 80-20 issue. We all agree that schools should not be able to keep secrets from parents. I mean, you have to sign a form to give your kid a Tylenol.
That's right.
But you can keep a secret about the gender that they are proclaiming at school. It's crazy. This is an opportunity to really send a message to Richmond and course correct here.
I 100% agree. And by the way, Atuza Reeser, the Democrat who he's running against, she had been on the school board in Loudoun County. Those policies that you hate so much, those policies that led to the sexual assault of a young girl and then the cover-up that led to the scandal where the superintendent was fired, et cetera, she engineered those things as a school board member. And this is typical of Democrats. They don't see a position on a school board as a way to give back to the community and help children. They see it as a stepping stone for higher office. It's time to send that message right now. So you want to go to Junaid4VA.com, JUNAID4VA.com. I apologize that you didn't get to hear from Mr. Khan directly, but I think we did his issues justice here. It's 6:44.
Later this morning on the Chris Plante Show, the Biden FBI targeted at least 160 Republicans because that's what the Soviet Union would do. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
Things are not going well in the final days for Abigail Spanberger's governor campaign for all of the reasons we detail on a regular basis here on this program. But yesterday she tried to pick up the pieces, clean things up. She's not doing well with black voters, you see, because I don't know, what is the word that black voters use for people like Abigail Spanberger? A Karen, I believe. A Karen is the word that they use. Is that a slur of some sort? I know a lot of people named Karen. I don't mean to insult them, but that's...
But I also don't think it's just black voters who call her Karen.
True. But specifically, she's trying to shore up the black vote. That's why she appeared at a big NAACP event. That's why she's bringing in Barack Obama in the final weekend. And now there's this. She went on a podcast that targets African-American voters, specifically African-American men. And the host, a black pastor, attempted... This was supposed to be a friendly interview. This is supposed to be sort of like I would not be surprised if it turns out the campaign paid for this, like an infomercial, like Kamala did with Oprah, right? So take a listen to the question for Abigail Spanberger, cut 10.
But I want to ask this question because I know this is a question that a lot of people are asking even now. With me, you coming to my church, you know my phone started ringing. She knows my phone started ringing. And a lot of African-Americans ask, well, what has she done for African-Americans? I was like, I don't know. And, where she is a rural area. So, what have you done or what can you do? Because that's the question that my colleagues, once they knew you were coming, it's like their thumbs just went off. Like,
so, I keep getting asked, what do you do for African-Americans? And I say, I don't know. I guess I'll ask her that. That's not good. I'm not a political professional like you, Cassie Smedile, but I think for the candidate, that is not good.
Yeah, that's an unhelpful soundbite. Less than a week out from your election, where you're trying to garner the support of African Americans, and the host is like, yeah, I don't know.
It's fantastic. Well, there you go. By the way, speaking of the African American vote in Virginia, who, by the way, in case you were wondering, and if you weren't paying attention, one of the candidates is in fact black. It would be she will be the first black woman elected governor in Virginia. Winsome Sears, the Republican, but you're not allowed to point out that she's black because she's not authentically black, of course, because she's a Republican. She's a conservative, and apparently being black means you have to think a certain way. Which last time I checked, people who believe that you have certain character traits or you behave or think a certain way because of the color of your skin, those people are racist who think that. But far be it from me to go out on a limb there. There were suggestions that the NAACP had endorsed Abigail Spanberger over Winsome Sears. The NAACP is very sensitive about this, and they did a full offensive yesterday, PR offensive. They said, we did not endorse Abigail Spanberger. That is a damnable lie. We did not endorse Abigail Spanberger. We just invited her to our conference, and we celebrated her, and we put out pictures with her, and we boosted her campaign, and we gave her a great photo op. And by the way, we didn't even invite Winsome Sears to the event, but we did not endorse her. So we apologize to the NAACP. You did not endorse her. You just gave her a full body massage, and basically made her your spokesperson and your poster child. And it's why Rush Limbaugh used to refer to them as the NAALCP. The L stands for liberal.
Oh, got it. Thank you for pointing that out. But you know what? After all of that, she goes on this podcast, which I think you're right. They probably paid for it. And they go, what have you done for the black community? I don't know.
No idea.
So...
And by the way, for those of you who are like, well, why don't you play her answer? It's like, the answer doesn't matter at that point. The fact that a black pastor in Virginia who hosts a podcast, who has a voice and has influence, has no idea what Abigail Spanberger has ever done for the black community is all you need to know. Whatever Abigail reads from her talking points, it's irrelevant. This ship is sinking. I just don't know if it's going to be able to stay afloat long enough through election night. We shall see, and you're going to want to stay right here all day long, every day through the election. Coming up at 8:35, the Attorney General, Jason Miyares. Right now it's 6:54.